Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Red Pill Diaries. I'm your host, your brother, and your friend, Rashid, and I'd like to thank each and every one of you for giving me another hour of your day and another day of your time. I know that is the most precious and most powerful commodity because it's non-renewable, and I hope that on each show, each episode, that we give you an equal or greater return for the time that you spent with us so that you grow and that we grow. Today's show is titled Live, Temperatures Rising. The war talks get heated. Now, let's go into this real quick. Everybody's having buyer's remorse now with Donald Trump, okay? I've heard a lot of people that are angry with his picks for his cabinet. And they're saying how the cabinet reflects the thoughts of Donald. Donald he's not a politician. But I told everybody in a show that I did called Two Sides of the Same Con, C-O-N, that regardless, the system must feed, regardless of who is in the White House, the black house, the pink house, the polka dot house, the green house, or the orange house. The system itself must feed. And you don't get to a position of authority and power unless you are pre-approved. Hence, that's how Obama got there, because he had an intelligence background. That's what he did. And what they did, they molded and shaped him through his childhood years all the way up through college. He got experience in life. He learned to be a city councilman or something like that, and a so-called advocate in urban America. But all of this was being used as a template or a base as to mislead Black America into voting for this guy. All right? Because the powers that be had already ordained him to be president, but they needed to build up some legitimacy in him. Never have you seen before somebody come out of nowhere, become a senator, then didn't even finish out his term as senator and becomes a two-time president, right? I'm telling you something. So with Trump not being a politician, we must remember that he still had connections to the policies and the politics and the politicians that preceded him again, right? This didn't come out of the blue. I'm not knocking Trump. I'm just telling you the truth. I've been telling you this for the longest. What the powers be did, they selected him because they knew that had he not become president, that he could have instigated a civil war, civil insurrection, and this would have broken the American empire. So what they did, they thought about it and ran a lazy candidate against him for America to seem as though this is a democracy and this is choice. But in reality, these two were the same. They were advocating the same policies, right? Did you hear Trump's national security advisor saying there's no difference between him and Anthony Blinken, Biden's national Secretary of State? Huh? Did you guys hear that? What the deep state did was surround and force him to pick certain people. See, this is how they insulate him, right? And they control him. And the plan of that superseded not allowing him to attain the presidency again, because it could have led to the implosion of the American system before time. So they had to walk back their hatred towards him and allow him to come to the forefront as the president, but surround him with people who will mold and fashion policy and also that have their little minions all throughout government. This is what I'm telling you. I've been telling you this for the longest, and now you're seeing it. And people are having buyer's remorse, but they forgot that there was a sign back there that said no refunds. Okay? So they gave you two bad choices, and you always say, well, I'm going to take the lesser evil. Taking the lesser evil is still evil. Nobody talks about that. I've even heard some of the main platforms, alternative media, are now starting to question Trump because they thought it would all change. You have to understand something. And I ask anybody to prove me wrong on this. When has the politician that has promised you this, and this has ever been able to come into the system and change the system to his liking or her liking and tailor it to them. We don't have any precedence of that. And when we did have something, there was assassinations, right? That got rid of them. But we do know for sure, because history leaves a trail. Whether you like the trail that it leaves or not, it leaves a paper trail. And we do know that the politicians that have high hope, I'm a politician for change, right? Didn't come and fulfill their campaign promises. What they did was, instead of changing the system, become cogs in the system to help the system continue to feed on the misery of the masses. Okay? That's what we've seen. You cannot deny history. You can say Rashid is not saying it, but when we look at history, history bears me witness, and history best rewards those who research it, right? Right? Shout out to Chad Franklin in the building. Shout out, Chad. Shout out to Perseverance Chameleon in the building. And of course, my girl Shelly is in the building. Let's see. She has something to say. Trump is a chump. Trump is a chump. And she says, yes, I believe you're on the mark, Rashid. But when I was saying this stuff, everybody thought that, hey, Rashid is a little bit out there on the fringes. All of this stuff that I was telling you about with how Russia must respond instead of turning the other cheek. Because, listen, when people tell you about turning the other cheek, they are telling you something against the very laws of nature. And when we have to put these things on a scale of life and a scale of facts and weigh them when people bring them before them. But a lot of people don't do that. They go about their business giving you their perspective without the basis of what you need. And I'm telling you that self-preservation is the first law of nature. If someone smacks you, guess what? I don't care how passive you are. If they smack you enough, you're gonna respond. If you don't respond, it only emboldens the bully. Right? Well, some of you say, well, Jesus says turn the other cheek. And well, I can also tell you that he, in the midst of when the Romans and when all of the people were chasing him, what did he ask? Which one of my followers, which one of you guys don't have a sword? Have a sword? Then go get you one. That's war talk. He's not telling them to get swords so they can put it down there and throw it and do magic tricks. The sword in that day was an instrument or a weapon of war. So he was saying enough is enough. Some of you don't put this into reality, and this is what makes you lack in understanding when it comes to what they're trying to put over on you. Okay? Let's go to something. Let me go back to the chat real quick. Shelly says people were willing to feed the beast a little in exchange for some hope. Listen, this is what the government does. Listen, the system does this. They offer you alternatives, though they control the alternatives. And when they don't control them, they suppress them. They try to stifle them out. They demonize them and try to destroy them. They plant stuff on them and make the people turn against them. Right? That's what happens. So the government is doing all this and is forcing a mental shutdown of the masses of the people. What I mean by that, so much stuff is coming in at one time on social media, on alternative media, on the mainstream media. You see everything that's going on, and some people shut down because it's so much that they have to process and deal with. And so when they shut down, they don't think the way they should think, and what they do, they just look at the surface of it, and they'll say, well, this guy offered change. They went with Obama. Well, this guy offered this. They're going with Trump. And yet you're still stuck with the same system that is exploiting everybody. What Franklin says, he gives a shout out. Let's see. Shelley says, has Trump said anything after loading his cabinet over the last week? I have not heard anything, and I've been doing my due diligence. Phobos Moon is in the building. I've been doing my due diligence to try to see this, and that's why I did not do a show yesterday. I wanted to make sure. See, I'm not trying to be the first to report on. What I'm trying to do is be the one that's correct, because it's too many lives are at stake. Too many. And you can have 100,000 subscribers, and if you're feeding them the wrong information, you are just as guilty. Whether you know it or not, you're just as guilty as the person that is purposely misdirecting them. So I want to make sure when I'm talking about something that I've learned about it, that I know about it, and not just speaking just for conversation, or just not speaking just to hear myself talk or to gain subscribers. Man, forget that mess. If I want subscribers, I can start me one of those gossiping channels. You know, I want to reach the masses of the people who want truth. This channel is all about freedom, justice, and equality. All right. So Shelley says, Phobos Moon says controlled opposition. Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely controlled opposition to make the opponent look better than the opponent is. Because if you put me up against an imbecile, and say for instance that I'm barely learned to the 9th or 10th grade, and you put me up with somebody that's completely romper room, I will look like a shining star against that person. Right? You will appear to have choice, but in reality, you don't have a choice. They are forcing your choice on you. They are making the decision for you because they have an alternative motive, or alternative move, or alternative plan in play. So listen, I want to go to something, because I've been talking to you and I've been telling everybody, check my track record. No one, I was telling you guys when I was saying this, I was catching flack. And no one was saying this. Now all of the channels are talking about this, how Vladimir Putin must hit back and he will hit back and all. I've been telling you that there was a need for that. And now you hear Vladimir Putin himself saying that now we must respond in kind to this and kind to that. When I was saying it, I was on the fringe of everything. But what I was saying was only common sense. And it seems like they're starting to wake up. One of Russia's main faults, and I'm going to tell you in just a second. Let me get a sip of water, because I just got home and I ran and I changed the time of the show because I was going to do it earlier, but I know I was busy. My wife is out of town, so I had a lot of things I had to do. And so I said it for 7, and I said, well, if I can get home before 7, I'll do it. I'll go and change the time, and I'll try to get out a little bit more because I got a few more things I have to do. I just got home, so let me get a sip of this. I'm going to hit Matt up this week. Shelley, I'm going to hit Matt up this week, okay? And see when his schedule is open, okay? And I got to get back with Alex Crane. I'm supposed to get back with him tomorrow, okay? So we're working, everybody. We're working. But I've been telling you all that Russia has misunderstood America. See, what Russia does and what the West, what Vladimir Putin does, he is looking at this through a legal lens because he's a lawyer. And he is looking at this through international law. Yeah, international law constrains other people, but it does not constrain someone who has been the hyperpower. This is what I'm telling you. They don't believe their excrement stinks. They don't believe that they have to conform and abide by the very laws that all of the other nations on the planet have to abide by. And this is a flaw in Russia's thinking when dealing with the West. Because they will all, their laws of what I call retractable laws. The laws are only used and are only good for the advancement of Western policies. If they are there to constrain Western policies, then the West ignores them and flaunts them. So the laws are just there to constrain everybody else not to buck up against Western dictates. And Russia has a problem because they're always referring to international law in the midst of their enemies flaunting international law. This is something that Russia should understand. If you are in a mud wrestling fight, right? You can't win the fight outside the cage. To beat your opponent, you got to get in the cage and get a little mud on you. That's the only way. America will not stop. I don't know how many times I have to tell anybody this. Show me in the past where she has stopped. Somebody will say, well, look at Afghanistan. She packed up and left, right? She still flies drones over there daily. Nobody talks about that. Bumming little parties and weddings and stuff. She still does that. But it's a sideline in the major news. She just does not give way. She's been in Korea since before the Korean War. She's been in Japan since World War II. She's all over Africa. She's all over Latin America. She has expanded her tentacles through NATO, eastward through Eastern Europe. You have to understand your enemy. He who fails to understand his enemy will be beaten by his enemy, or fail to lose a lot. They will lose a lot, because the lesson that America teaches is that you can't trust her. Ask the Native Americans. Ask the ex-slaves. Ask the Chinese who helped build a railroad. Ask the Irish. America does not live up to her word. She only uses that as a pause. I did an article yesterday on shout out to Xenia, and I always mispronounce it, but shout out to you. Listen, I did an article, and it was for just channel members. It was not a paid article. It's on Patreon. If you become a channel member, you can go over there and read it right now. Okay, and just a regular member. It's free on Patreon. Patreon.com/The Red Pill Diaries. It's free. It came out yesterday. I did two. One for the paid members and one for everybody. All right. If you subscribe, you can go read it right now. And it was about the head fake that America and Israel threw by America being so into this and allowing the media to report how America was determined to bring about a ceasefire, right? And in my article, it's amazing because I sent this out on the thread that I'm on, and I sent the article out, and then I said, look at the article that comes out today, bearing witness to what I said in that article that I wrote about how this was a head fake and how America and Israel know that Israel cannot win fighting on multiple fronts and then confront Iran, especially as America is losing in Ukraine and trying to pivot to Asia against China. So one has to ask the question, in the midst of all the bombing in Gaza, why was there no peace deal? In the midst of them ransacking the West Bank, why was there no peace deal? Now in Lebanon, because Hezbollah has been putting it on Israel, why is Netanyahu now allowing America to go about negotiating the peace deal, and why are they accepting it? You just don't understand the trickery involved. This is not a peace deal as per se a peace deal will be. No, this is to buy time to rearm and reposition and recalibrate the policies of Israel, America, and NATO. Because they're short on weapons. Israel is being bled to death on the battlefield. American and NATO forces are being bled to death on the Ukrainian battlefield. So they have to have a pause, a breather. Remember what I told you, that America does not talk about peace deals or cessations of violence when she has the upper hand. It is only when it's conducive to her plan to recalibrate her policies for a major push in another area that she does that. So everybody is looking at this as a great deal as it stops the bloodshedding. But who benefits the most? What do they tell you when a murder takes place? They say motive, opportunity, and who benefits. What was the motive behind them trying to feverishly come up with a peace deal, a cessation of violence, when they haven't done it since last year? Huh? What was the motive? All right. Why did they take this opportunity to put so much effort behind it? And then we look at who benefits the most. You have to understand, America's image has been hit so hard by the transfer of weapons, the looking the other way as war crimes and crimes against humanity has been taking place in all over Palestine, Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq, and now in Ukraine. the Israelis have been taking a beating in the media, plus they're at odds with each other in the government, plus there's a civil insurrection going on. The people are demanding that the government step down. Why? Listen to me good. Who benefits the most for this? Is it Hezbollah? No. Because remember, Hezbollah was not advocating a cessation of violence. They were saying, now we're going to hit you as you hit us. And notice that this comes after Hezbollah starts hitting Tel Aviv and the other major areas. But as long as Israel was allowed to hit Beirut and there was no backlash, guess what? There was no cessation of violence. But when the Tel Aviv was hit, all right, when that port in Haifa was hit, when the Israeli intelligence center was hit, when their covert military base was hit, when the Air Force general was killed, all of a sudden we're suing for peace. You didn't sue for peace as the bombs rained on children in hospitals. You didn't sue for peace as women were being victimized and raped all across Gaza. You didn't sue for peace then. You didn't sue for peace when you bombed 6 and 7 square blocks in Lebanon at a time. You didn't sue for peace then. It's only when all of these things mounted up as they were taking casualties on both sides of the border of occupied Palestine. Huh? And now, with this cessation of violence, it allows America and Israel to regroup, rethink, and recalibrate. And rearm. Because remember, Israel and Ukraine were both at loggerheads over the supply of weapons. And we know that the U.S. and NATO was running dry on weapons. And why must there be a cessation now? Because Iran has been bringing out some of its big missiles. And Iran has been letting the world know that True Promise 3 is coming. So how can you fight Iran, the regional hegemon? Fight Hezbollah, who was taught and armed by Iran. Fight Islamic Jihad. Fight Hamas. Fight the Syrian Arab army. All at once and survive. You have to give cover to the madness, the schemes that you're putting over on the people. And you need to look as though you're trying to sue for peace. But while suing for peace, you take that time to rearm. You guys didn't get that lesson in Ukraine with the Minsk I and the Minsk II agreements. What did they say? We were just using it to buy time to rearm and retrain. So you don't see that in Palestine, Lebanon, Iraq, and Syria. You don't see Israel doing that. Huh? It's as clear as day. And then the article comes out, I believe it came out on, let me see something real quick. Let's see something real quick. I sent it. Let's see if that's it. And the article came out on Sputnik. So this article comes out on Sputnik, and it says a ceasefire deal. Netanyahu focuses on Iran. This ceasefire deal allows Israel to breathe and then focus on Iran. What did I say? Huh? They need to breathe, rearm, and recalibrate. So this is more for Israel in the United States than it is for the Palestinians, for the Syrians, for the Iraqis, or for the Lebanese. Man, they trick you guys all the flipping time. These people are masters at tricknology. Oh, buddy, let me show you something. Let me show you something on how things are so bad. I'm gonna bring something up on the screen, okay? And we're gonna let Scott Ritter talk to you guys for a minute because I'm gonna jump from subject to subject tonight because I have a lot to do and I'm trying to address a lot of things at one time. But like I said, that article on Sputnik bore witness to the article that I did on Patreon. For it's free to all members. If you're a free member or a paying member, you can go. But then it's another article on there that came out last night too for paid members. It's about what's going on in Iran. Iran is preparing for some major on it. But I want you to check this out. Let me bring this up on the screen. All right. And this is my content, so I can play it. I want you to listen close to this. All right. Let me play it now.
That's the reality.
Do you think because he's so not there anymore that Victoria Nuland and the whole crew are the ones pushing the policy and the aggressive stance towards Russia? Because it seems like every time she says something, within weeks or months, the United States is pushing that policy towards Russia.
There is, look, even when his brain worked, I remember, he ran on a platform when it comes to the issue that I'm really concerned about, nuclear war, nuclear weapons. He ran on a platform back in 2020 that said, if I'm elected, America will walk away from its current nuclear posture that's based upon the premise of preemption, and we will reassume what we call the sole use doctrine, that the only reason nuclear weapons exist is as a deterrent to prevent other nations from using nuclear weapons against us. That the only way we will use nuclear weapons is if we are attacked with nuclear weapons, and then our response will be overwhelming. And the fact that it's an overwhelming response and the horrors that will be brought about it should deter people from attacking us. Okay, if you're going to have nuclear weapons, that's a legitimate thing, I guess. I'd prefer, once you put that in place, then to say, now, rather than being ready to kill each other, let's bring it down and down and down so we don't have to worry about killing each other. But that's the policy he said he ran on. That's a supportable policy. But 2 years ago, I attended a reunion of, arms control inspectors like myself who were involved in the actual elimination of nuclear weapons. And the negotiators, everybody involved in the Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty came together for a reunion. And the Biden administration sent a senior arms control official who asked to remain anonymous. And there was a question and answer period. And this arms control official, who, frankly speaking, when you look at their resume, you're like, well, okay, how'd you get here? This person was being asked questions by people whose resume said nothing but arms control, people who not only theorized about it, but did it and were the first to do it, who wrote the book. And one of the questions asked is, why did the president not fulfill his promise? And the answer was, well, the interagency wasn't ready for it. And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute. We're all looking at you going, the interagency. Now, the interagency, you speak of, when I was involved in all this, we had something we called the interagency process. And what that is, it's how you make policy. The executive has a policy that they want to be implemented, but it has to be considered by the agencies involved. And so the National Security Council will create an interagency working group that brings people from the Department of Defense, Department of Energy, Department of State, Department of Treasury, and they all come together and they say the president wants to do X, Y, and Z, and then they come up with the policy, and then they brief it to the National Security Council, who then takes it to the president, and they work it out. It's a process, the interagency process. The people in the interagency working group report to, cabinet heads who were nominated by the president and confirmed by the Senate. So you see, there's this democracy thing going on here, where we, the people, actually count, because the senators that are confirming are people we voted for, and the president who's overseeing is somebody we voted for. We know all this. Nobody voted for the interagency, and yet now the interagency is a standalone thing. The interagency wasn't ready for it. What do you mean? The interagency should be fired then. I mean, if I'm the president of the United States, I'm the executive, and I turn around and I say, this is the policy I want, that they come back. See, it'd be one thing if they said, Mr. President, we're doing a process and we have disagreement with the Department of Defense and all this stuff, and we'd like to talk to you about this so we can best come up. That's the process. That's okay. But the interagency is not a standalone entity that gets to tell the executive, we're not ready for this. Well, then you don't exist anymore. That should have been the answer from the president. You're fired. Like Donald Trump said, you haven't fired anybody, Joe. You haven't fired anybody. The interagency wasn't ready for it, which tells you something, that now there's this unelected entity in Washington, D.C. called the interagency. Now, we can call it other things. We can call it the establishment, the swamp. We can call it the deep state. It's an unelected power base that's in control. And they've been there for some time now. This isn't unique to the Biden administration. Vladimir Putin sort of mocked it a while back when he talked about, every president runs and says they're going to do this, that, and the other thing. And then once they become president, men in a dark suit sit down with him and tell him the reality. And suddenly he changes his mind because you can't go against the establishment. This is disturbing. It's one thing if we have a president who has his cognitive abilities intact. He can push back and wrestle the establishment, work with the establishment, not fight the establishment, whatever you want to say, but at least he's there doing something. But when you have a president who is literally brain dead, teetering along, have to be, held by Joe Biden and brought in and have people whisper in his ear, hold a card that tells him what to say. Who wrote that? Who wrote the card? Mm-hmm. The president didn't write the card. The president's being handed talking points from people who are right. Who wrote the card? Based upon what instructions? What's the foundational principles behind the words on the card that the president's now saying and doesn't even understand what he's saying? This is the problem. This is the danger right now. So we don't know who's writing the card. We don't know who's doing it. They weren't picked by us. They're just doing it. And this is what makes the current situation very, very dangerous. If Donald Trump was the president, I may not support the policies, but at least I know who to blame. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. And if there's establishment, we saw that the establishment sabotaged him on North Korea. At least I can turn to Trump and say, shame on you, because your brain still works. You gave in to the establishment. You were supposed to drain the swamp, but the swamp drained you. And Trump has no defense because his brain works. You can hold him to account. What are you supposed to do with Joe right now? Joe, you're wrong. Talking points. At the time, you're full of malarkey. Come on, man. That's not how this country's supposed to operate.
All right. So I wanted to play. Let me remove that from the screen. So you see, that was Scott. Now I want to address some in the audience real quick before we continue on with this. Okay, RCM says, why are you assuming these people are stupid when you don't have all the information? It's dangerous to make assumptions that you know best. Who said I knew best? Who said that these people were stupid? I said the people think you're stupid. That's what I said. I said they don't respect your intelligence, not Rashid. Because there's no way that they can respect you by putting out the type of dogma that they put out. So that's what I was saying. I never said that you or this person or that person was stupid. No, you didn't hear me. You were listening, but you didn't hear me. I said that the powers that be don't respect you. They think you're ignorant, and they're trying to dumb you down so that they can exploit your ignorance after you have been dumbed down. And I admit that I don't have all the information, but neither do you. And neither do they. But you can make educated guesses on the matter by all of the stuff that is presented to you. That's what a hypothesis is. That's what scientists use for breakthroughs. That's what scientists use to formulate scientific processes that will eventually lead to breakthroughs. That's what investigators use, a hypothesis. They don't have all the information at the time, but they piece little bits together to give them a direction to go in so that they can apprehend the true culprit of the crime. That's what I'm doing. Huh? What's wrong with that? So you have to assume certain things when they put it out there. And if it's not right, then you come back and say, well, when they put this out, I assume this, but I'm correcting that course because now more information has come out that proves to the contrary. There's no shame in apologizing if you made a mistake. As a matter of fact, that shows mental growth. Okay? But you made an assumption saying that I said that, and I didn't. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Salute, Shelly. You know it. You know it. You're always here. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Now, you said something that's very, I'll put up on the screen real quick because it's very important. You said Scott glitched going full Vance the days after the election, but he's so back and pissed as hell at Trump. I kept, you know why Scott was hoping that there would be change. Just like a lot of people, they hoped, and now they're having buyer's remorse because they're realizing that this candidate is still that candidate from 4 years ago and still that person that sells dreams. That's why people are starting to get mad. The same as what happened to Obama. Same what happened to Bush. Same what happened to Biden. People are having buyer's remorse, all right? Especially when they see who's in his cabinet. And remember, if I give you $100 million for your campaign, I'm not giving it to you just so we can slap hands and smile. I'm giving it to you as a quid pro quo. I want something in return. So if somebody gives Trump $100 million for his campaign, you don't think he has to pay that back? Not in money, but in policy, in blood. When you have to pay it back? Huh? When you have to make your policy fit the policy of the people who funded you? Or else? Right? What's so hard about understanding that? Because when they look at this, I think Trump has the same mesmerizing effect as Obama had. That effect, because people are longing for change. People are longing to get outside of the tentacles of the imperialistic system. And so they're putting their bet on anybody that can talk the talk. Talk that lingo. I'm exposed 9/11. Oh, I'm going to shut down the Fed. Oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And then I say, did he do it in his first 4 years? And people say, well, no, he was hindered by. No, what did George Bush say? I'm the president. The buck stops here. I call the shots, right? So they stopped calling the shots? Huh? What I'm doing is trying to put a mirror up so that you can see the true face of the politicians. I don't care what color they are, what gender they are, what policy, party they're part of. I give two flips about that. I'm trying to show you that all of this is Walt Disney. It's a show to keep you off balance mentally and spiritually, so that the empire can continue to move on, continue to exploit, continue to wage war, continue to dominate, and continue to force everybody in obedience to his will. That's what I'm going after to show you this. All right? So, Chad Franklin says, gotta take a day to celebrate Kamala's defeat. Chad, you wrong for that one right there. Let's see. Phobos Moon says Biden in the Amazon jumped the shark. LOL. What even is that, man? I have no idea. When that man went in those bushes, man, I nearly lost it, man. I mean, I felt sad, but it was so funny to me. Oh, but this guy left the podium and walked in some bushes. And you believe this man is directing policy? Man, stop this. Shelley says, if the Houthis got one of those Oreshniks, not likely, but imagine if they did. Well, look here. This has been confirmed by multiple sources here, that the strikes that the Houthis did hit Israel's port, the Haifa port with, and the military base with, were hypersonic missiles. Now I want to ask you this. Where are they getting from? Huh? Because remember, these were people with sandals on. Some of them had sandals on and they were fighting. They had no air defense. Where's all these air defense systems coming from? Where are all these strike weapons coming from? Where's all of this offensive weapons coming from? Huh? Iran, China, and Russia. So people leave that off. Iran, China, and Russia. Okay? So right now, we're in a time now where Israel has to recalibrate. America has to recalibrate. They have to rethink this, rearm, so they can recalibrate and focus on their main threats that they feel that threatens American hegemony, right? And I'm just going to say it on the air right here. There was some news that I got that Iran has those Su-35s. I don't know. They said they have the Su-35s. Russian technicians assembled them. They're ready to go. That's why Iran pre-built those hangars, and that they're waiting for Iranian pilots to come back from Russia because they have been training on Su-35s, and they're waiting for more Russian technicians to demonstrate that they are fully operational before they officially pass them over to the Iranians. All right. Now, here's something else. I'm gonna give you a little bit more. Iran is also quietly in talks with the Chinese for the upgraded J-10C. Okay? You didn't know that, did you? But now you do. You listen to the show, you'll get you some more information on that. As a matter of fact, a couple of because a lot of people get this mixed up. So let me back for a minute. When the air show took place in Iran, when Iran was fending off U.S., UK, French, Israeli, and other NATO nations' airstrikes on Iranian territory, the Chinese were on the phone with the Iranians almost the whole time. They were collecting data on some of their air defense systems that they had transferred to Iran. And these air defense systems demonstrated a giant leap in technology because they were down in everything. And nobody reported on it. So I'm going to give you that in the public, okay? All right? So we're looking at a clash of civilizations, everybody. Okay? What do you think out of the blue? Because a lot of people also have this misconception that any advanced technology that China has, China gets it from Russia. Nobody assumes that it's the other way around sometimes. All right? No one assumes that. But we do know that before there was any signs of the Oreshnik, that there were reports that China had tested a missile similar to that upwards of a year ahead in advance to this weapon that Russia tested. And China's weapon went around the globe, circumnavigated around the globe, and then dispersed to hit its target with multiple warheads coming out at hypersonic speeds in excess of 10 Mach 10. This happened a year ago, and then they did it again, and the United States was watching it. And China did it for the United States to watch. But a lot of people, because the Chinese are non-white, non-Western, they think that the Chinese had to take the technology from Russia. And I hear that a lot. A lot of people don't understand that. The Chinese graduate more technicians, engineers than anybody on the globe. Surely, if you do that over time, the technological advancement tilts towards the Chinese. Russia has no rail guns. China has working rail guns on their warships. The thing that America had a decade in technological advancement over the Chinese has working versions of it. Did they steal the technology? How in the hell can you say I stole from the U.S. when they can't even, they canceled their program because they could not make it work? But the Chinese actually have them on their Type 55 destroyers. How? But that's that Western mind. If the Chinese does it, if anybody outside of the West, they had to steal it from us. They had to it had to be from us, and they went in and worked it out for their own. But they stole our technology. That is arrogant as hell. Nobody tells you. America loves to say stolen technology. Why don't they say that they stole German technology? Because they did. The United States stole the bomb. The United States stole the German technicians for the bombers, for their ballistic missiles from the Germans. But nobody talks about that, right? Man, stop this, man. Stop it. All right. So let's go to something real quick. All right. See, I'll give you facts. and we talk, oh, shout out to my guy, Joel Bradford is in the building. Shout out to Joel. All right. I see you, Shelly. Shelly has been laughing in the chat. But let's go to something real quick. Where is it at? So there's an article out today, and I'm not going to keep you long. I just wanted to talk to you guys, but since we'll do it 10, 20 more minutes, okay? So look, there's an article out today, and it is on RT, and the article is titled, "This Means War with NATO. Are U.S. Tomahawk missiles coming to Ukraine?" Now, let's go back to something that I've been telling you guys since this war started. If Russia does not strike the source of the problem, do not expect the problem to cease. I'm going to say that again. If Russia does not strike the source of the problem, do not expect the source to cease. If I continue to have headaches every day, right? And all I do is take an aspirin or take a Tylenol every day. It may numb or blunt the pain for a while, but having it every day signifies that there's something more than just a regular headache. So common sense would tell you, let me go find out, because it could be something more serious. So you have to go to the root of it so that you don't suffer death or any other ailments, right? Because it's like a car, it's like a knock-on effect. When one thing goes bad, another thing goes bad, right? All right. So now I'm telling you that just striking it in Ukraine is not going to get it. Even though when Ukraine, when Russia struck Ukraine with the Hazelnut missile, hypersonic missile, they destroyed the plant and they destroyed NATO facilities under the plant. Nobody talks about that. There were NATO facilities underneath the plant that were manned by NATO mercenaries along with Ukrainians. Those are gone. That's why you had another ATACMS missile strike on Russia, because NATO lost troops there. All right. Nobody talks about it, but they know that this happened. A lot of these people know this happened. All right. So listen. Phobos Moon says, and I'm gonna read the article in just a minute. The question is, how many hundreds of pilots from Iran and Yemen got into Chinese cadet programs? I'm quite confident it's happening because the Chinese have nothing to lose. Right. The problem with China and Russia is they try to play by the rules of the international order, and it constrains them. America, when she feels constrained, she just throws the rules out the window. And you cannot fight a successful war if one person has all of the shackles off of them, and you have your hands, your legs tied, you have your mouth taped, you have your eyes blinded. You cannot fight a successful war. You have to talk the language. And what's funny is, I tell you guys this all the time, and I heard a pundit say this, and then I heard two other huge websites say this. And I say that evidently the language that Russia is speaking to the United States and NATO, they are not understanding it. And common sense would tell me, if I'm trying to communicate with you and you show me time and again that you're not understanding the language that I'm speaking, the only way that I can convey to you what I'm trying to say is to learn your language and then speak it to you. And that's what a lot of people are saying now. The stuff that I was getting called out over. Russia needs to learn the language of America. You cannot talk to the hegemon with international law. You cannot talk to the hegemon about war crimes. Look what Lindsey Graham says now, as long as that illegitimate court in the Netherlands got Charles Taylor of the African nation, it escapes me right now, it'll come back to me, and got Slobodan Milosevic and then put a warrant out for Vladimir Putin. Oh, Lindsey Graham was talking about, this is a moment in history. The court is legitimate and blah, blah, blah. As soon as they put something out against Benjamin Netanyahu and Gallant, the war secretary of occupied Palestine, then they're talking about sanctioning, even making war against the court and their allies. Again, they don't let international law, crimes against humanity, war crimes, or any of that stuff constrain what they're doing policy-wise. And Russia and China, they do. You cannot fight a successful war against this empire because this empire is bloodthirsty. And if you slip one time, it's over. Look what happened to Nasrallah. After negotiating a ceasefire, the United States, when he came out of hiding, the United States monitored him, monitored the Iranian generals, monitored his team, waited right till they got in the bunker, gave Israel the go, sent the AWACS up. They had already pre-positioned those bunker busting bombs. Remember, they were transferring bunker buster bombs to Israel months prior to the bombing of Lebanon. They weren't using bunker buster bombs in Gaza. So what were the bunker buster bombs for? They wanted to eliminate the resistance. So they eliminated Nasrallah. Israel tried to decapitate Hezbollah's leadership. They went after Hamas's leadership. All right? You cannot negotiate and trust these people. Every time there was a negotiated settlement, Israel killed the negotiator. How in the hell can you have a negotiated peace when the negotiator is being murdered? How can you negotiate with people who show no mercy towards little children? Children, women, little boys, little girls. And you want to talk about having a peace agreement? Man, stop this. Stop this. Stop it. Stop it. And you believe that America is going to honor this? You believe that Israel is going to honor this? Man, that's how they get you. So let's see. Phobos Moon says, yeah, Rashid, you are 100% right on this, and you called it before it almost. I'm telling you, I've been saying this stuff for the longest. It's going to be that missile facility in Poland they made for Iranian missiles. I got what you said right there. When the treaty subsided, right? It's going to be more than that if they keep on. Remember what I told you guys before the Ukrainian conflict. What did I tell you guys? There are going to be three major conflicts. Three major. All right. There will be a regional conflagration in the MENA region. That's the Middle East and North African region, which is West Asia. What are we seeing going on right now in the preparations of? Huh? I told you there will be a regional war in Asia. I said, and China is going to put its foot in America's backside. And China is going to beat them so bad, as it was told to me, that China is going to roll over America and her allies in Australia too, like a parking lot. Like one of those that lays asphalt in the parking lot. They're going to roll over them. And Japan and all of those nations that were so-called allies to the United States, they're going to flip. They're going to flip her. And they're going to join China. Because regardless of what you say, China never dropped a nuclear bomb on Japan. China didn't go in the Philippines raping and pillaging the Philippines. Right? And you think these people forgot? These people are just biding their time. And I told you there will be a major conflagration in Europe. And this will go nuclear in Europe. It's not going to spread across. It's going to be in Europe. Listen to what I'm saying. So you guys, I've been telling you guys this for the longest. And it will be let me tell you this too. France is going to tuck tail and run. I'm telling you this right now. But Russia is going to dig so far in America's backside in Europe. The United States is going. And I've been telling you guys this for since before the war started. And now they're talking about we fear not Russia doing a preemptive strike. We fear that the United States may do one now. But I was telling you guys this 2 years ago. 3 years. I said America is going to use nuclear weapons because she's going to lose. But it's not time for that nuclear strike at this moment. That'll fester on. You got to have this regional war first in the MENA region, and you got to have this Asian war. Okay, this stuff is going to happen like this, and you see all of the stuff that I've been telling you guys over the years. have now started to take shape, and we're connecting the dots. I've been telling you guys this. So let's go to this article real quick. It says, Shelley says, it's so coming. The planet will go to hell unless the West is put in their place. Learn some multipolar order. Yeah. But listen, again, America is not going to go quietly in the night. Britain, the UK is not going to go quietly in the night. You got to understand, these people have ruled the planet for the last 500 years. I'm talking about without fail. They have dominated politics, culture, geopolitics, economics, trade, manufacturing for the last 500 years. Do you believe that they will get off the horse that they're sitting on and allow for somebody else to get up there and ride that horse? That's not feasible. Why do you think that they built up enough nuclear armament to try to destroy the world 30 times over? Because they have it in their mind that if I can't rule, I'm killing everybody. I'm going to destroy everything so nobody will have a kingdom to rule after me. That is what is going on. Nobody wants to address the 800-pound gorilla in the room, but I will. And people can say, oh, no. Well, all one has to do is look at the track record. Why, when it comes to the UK and the US and NATO, we throw the track record out, we throw the history out. But everybody else, we make them stand on their history, their actions, and their track record. Huh? Why? It's a little bit of exceptionalism, fascism, and racism, and sexism also. All right. So let's see. Let me go to something real quick. And even Shelley said, I called it. I called this stuff before it happened. Because I had someone telling me about this stuff long before it took place. So I was able to watch the little differences of what was going on and stuff. And now I'm calling it for you guys so that you guys can prepare for what's going on. These people will not yield. This is what I'm telling you. The only time they talk peace is when they need a break or when they're planning to recalibrate to hit hard or hit somewhere else. Did America stop in Afghanistan? Did she stop her war after she pulled out from Afghanistan? Huh? No, look where we are. She just recalibrated. Huh? I'm telling you, that's what they do. Did she stop when she went to war with Libya? Nope. Did she stop when she went to war with Iraq? Nope. Did she stop when she went to war with Syria? Nope. The only reason that American troops left Burkina Faso is because Russian troops were allowed in. They refused to move until Burkina Faso said, you know what, I got something for you guys. Because the United States kept ignoring the government and they said, we want you gone. Well, we need to negotiate. What the hell you mean negotiate? What can you not grasp? We want you and your troops gone. The United States refused to. So the new leader of Burkina Faso and of Niger and all of these other, guess what they did? They invited the Russians into the same basis. That's what forced the U.S. out of there. She never willingly leaves. She's still ignoring the parliamentary rules of Iraq when Iraq has voted year after year for the removal of all U.S. and so-called coalition forces from Iraqi territory. You think she'll yield? Man, stop this. Point to when she has. And remember, Trump, Mr. Trump, talks about how Biden bungled the withdrawal from Afghanistan, right? He was the one who initiated it. Go look it up. Now, I'm not talking about Biden. I'm talking about Trump. That gets looked over too. And everybody know how much I dislike Joe Biden. But I have to tell the truth about Trump too. I'm not going to spare nobody's feelings. Truth does not spare feelings. Truth is to be embraced by those who love the truth. And sometimes it's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt you. So let's go. Shelley says, yep. British, East India, China taking England after their civil war. Check this out. Let's go to the article real quick. The NATO Parliamentary Assembly must know its call to supply Kyiv with medium-range missiles would provoke a direct war with Russia. Now, right here, America says that every nation should be able to choose, right? This is what she says. This is what all NATO nations are saying right now. They're following the same line as America. And they say that they are allowed to deploy their stuff anywhere on the sovereign territory of a NATO member or any nation that will allow it, right? Now, if Russia did that in Venezuela, Chile, Costa Rica, Panama, down in Bolivia, or in Cuba, how would America react? Huh? If Russia said, "Oh, we're just deploying an anti-missile defense system in Cuba, and we're just loading nuclear weapons into Cuba to fend off Osama bin Laden and Al Qaeda," do you think America would buy that? So what makes you think Russia should? An eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, right? I don't like this stuff where Russia let the West dictate the policy because they're always forced to react. They're always reacting to provocations. You cannot get stability or peace in a position where you are always alert and you always have to react to something. Sometimes you have to go on the offensive and make your enemy react. Throw them off a little bit. And I don't believe that Russia is doing this. Yes. No reverse gear. Yeah. Phobos Moon says, I am a Burkina fan. They kicked out the U.S. and within a month were publishing drone videos of their new air forces crushing terrorists. The U.S. never even bothered. That's what I'm saying. France, all of them did the same thing. What they did, they supplied weapons to the terrorists enough to keep the government threatened, so that it would be a justification for them to remain in those areas, so that they can loot the resources, and they can control the region and prevent the Belt and Road from making its way to Africa. This is what all of this is about. That terrorism. Notice that the terrorism hits the nations that America is after, right? And notice that Al Qaeda and all of these other terrorist groups in Syria. Now, I want you to see this, the reality of this, because nobody poses this to you. These are, and you hear everybody saying these are fundamental Islamist groups, right? You hear that. They are extremists, Islamic extremists, right? Because you hear them say Allahu Akbar, right? Anybody can say Allahu Akbar. And if you believe that, why you got your face covered up? Huh? You don't want nobody to see you. Why? Because there's something deep to that. They have not attacked one U.S. base in Syria. They have not attacked one UK base. They have not attacked one NATO base. They have not attacked one Israeli facility. And when a missile went astray in Israel, they apologized, and the Israeli military was seen, the hospitals were seen treating those members that were wounded in Syria. Thank you, baby. So how can these be Muslim fundamentalists or extremists when they are kowtowing to what we call the Jewish state of Israel and the so-called quote-unquote Christian nations of the UK, the US, and NATO? I'm asking you these things because nobody asks these things, because we got to do away with all of these diatribes, all of these little fake aids that they put before you to fool you and then to have you thinking one thing when it's a whole new reality over on the other side. Huh? If these were trying to establish a caliphate, right? Why wouldn't they go to occupied Palestine and do it? Why would they try to take Iraq or Syria? Huh? Why didn't they go into Jordan? Why aren't they trying to go up into Turkey? Why are they only attacking nations that proclaim independence from Western dictates and Western policies? There must be something to this. Of course, you know what it is. These people are tools of the West. Matter of fact, I played this 100 times and I'm going to play it 100 more, because we've got to get this fact to people, okay? So listen to this.
We created ISIS. I mean, ISIS is no less than the people up in Islamberg, no less than Gulen, is a CIA creation. John McCain, for heaven's sake, was over there with the ISIS officials. We created them. They came from the Al-Nusra group, the Syrian Liberation Front. These two organizations combined, and they morphed into ISIS. It's our creation. We create them. We still direct them. When ISIS warriors are injured in battle, where are they transported? They're transported, for heaven's sake, to Israel. They're treated by the Israelis in Israeli hospitals and brought back to battle.
Well, plenty of the rebels have acknowledged that they've been supported by Israel, and they've thanked Israel for helping them. Yeah. In fact, arms are oftentimes caught. Israeli arms are caught on en route to the rebel groups.
But they are Islamic extremists. But they're only attacking Muslims and Coptic Christians. Huh? Man, stop this. Stop it. This is what I'm talking about when they don't respect your intelligence. You don't believe they're a part of it? Let me play another one like I played before. Check this out. The guy gives you who ISIS is. And remember that this is on C-SPAN. So I didn't make this up. You know, they took it off C-SPAN and took it off YouTube and all, but it was on C-SPAN. So I want you to listen to this again.
It's against the state of Israel, political plots, and others.
You tell the story about how you tried to find out what they call the Mossad when they deal with publicly?
I thought it was a reasonable question, but the trouble is you can't pick up the phone book. There's no Langley in Israel that you can look up, CIA, or in our case, the Mossad. We thought we should ask, what shall we call it in English? You can translate the Hebrew words, as I said, Mossad is institute, but when they write a letter to their friends in the CIA or the British intelligence, what do they call themselves? It took a while. It was a matter of asking the Prime Minister's spokesman. The best you could do, because officially the Mossad is under the Prime Minister's office. And I think he sort of wondered why you want to know and all that, so we explained. And he came up with the Israeli Secret Intelligence Service. I mean, if it were to have initials, it would be ISIS. Just simple words like that. Interestingly enough, kind of a British model.
So, what did he say? Huh? What did he say it was? The Israeli Secret Intelligence Service? You know what I have to say about that?
What you talking about, Willis?
So, again, listen what the word Al-Qaeda means. It means the base or the database. This was the database put together by Obama's mentor, Zbigniew Brzezinski. So how can these people be fundamentalists or Islamic terrorists when they are working for the so-called Christian West? Real Christianity, I'm not talking about. I'm talking about these people who perpetrate, okay? All right? So how could this be fundamental Islamists? Remember, let's go back to something. Let's backtrack for a little bit. Because Britain, you're not getting out of this either. Because Britain mandated, and who the hell mandated Britain over Palestine? They made a people in their own land refugees through their own mandate to give to people in Europe who claim to be Jews. Now, the common sense tells me this, and I heard a lot of people say, well, if they want the Arab states have enough land to give these people their own territory, it's not even about that. Germany had enough land to give them theirs too. Because it was the Germans, according to what you guys say, that put them through the extermination camps and all of that stuff, right? So why didn't the Germans have to pay the price? You displace an entire people because of your religious fervor. That means that you're an extremist. To do that and then to maintain it under lies and deceit and war, you are a bloodshedder, a liar. And this is the truth. And nobody addresses this stuff. So Germany, bigger than the state of California, didn't have enough land to start a state after, according to what they say, exterminated 6 million Jews. But little old Palestine, roughly the size of New Jersey, had to accommodate those people. And then they took over and kicked the inhabitants out and put them into refugee camps and exile. So that's fair. That's just right. Man, stop this foolishness. Stop it. Stop this. See, I'm going to call an ace and a spade, and a lot of people get mad. But we're moving more and closer towards war. Now, I told you guys I wasn't going to have you. Shelly says, dynamite. Like I said, I'm not going to keep you long today. We'll have a show. If I'm feeling up to it, we'll have a show tomorrow. I got some clips I want to play for you guys, and I want to address them. But before I address, I want to make sure that a few things happen in the news. So I'll be monitoring the news tonight and early tomorrow to make sure it happens, because I don't like to speak on, or if somebody gives me a little information, sometimes if I tell it to you, you'll know who gave it to me. So I have to wait a little bit before I can drop some more to you guys. But I want to thank each and every one of you for giving me your time, because I know that your time is so valuable and so precious. So from the depth of my soul and the bottom of my heart, I want to thank each and every one of you who joined me on this platform. Please hit the like button. And remember, do right by others. Not because there's some type of material gain for it, or because somebody's going to pat you on the back, or because somebody's watching. Do right because it's the right thing to do, because even when no one else is watching, God Almighty is watching. Know that I love each and every one of you who loves truth, but know that the love that I have for you will always pale in comparison to the love that God has for you. Until we next speak again, stay strong, stay true, but above all things, stay righteous. Hey, mama, your baby boy loves you more than life. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. Peace. We're out of here. Deuces.